I'm Bill Lark, and I'm here today live at the Rockpool Bar and Grill in Sydney. I'm here today with a couple of special guests, Ryan Gavin, good morning, and Gavin Gillin. Today we're going to be talking about the Australian craft whisky industry and the amazing things it's achieved in the short time that it's been happening. So for me, it's been an amazing journey. I have to say, people often ask me, how hard was it? And to get the legislation changed and start this industry. For what I tell people is that it probably would have been harder not to do it than to do it. Everywhere I went, I was swept up in a wave of enthusiasm from politicians who loved whisky, desperate to change the legislation to allow small stills. Plenty of enthusiasts around the place wanting to see if Tasmania and Australia could produce good single malt whisky. When we said we wanted to have a go at making whisky, I promised my wife that we wouldn't start another business. And here we are today, involved in a wonderful company, AWH, with 4 distilleries on our books, and there's plenty of distilleries producing wonderful whiskies, winning some of the top awards around the world. And for me, it's been an amazing time. One of the things that's motivated me to keep going is some inspiring words I received from John Grant at the Glenfarclas Distillery in Scotland, who phoned me just 2 weeks after getting my licence. And it was quite a surprise. I was concerned what they might think about us silly colonials having a go at making whisky. But what I discovered was that there was a willingness to help us make good whisky. And with John's inspiring words, when people came to me after we got started and said they wanted to start a distillery, the words of John were ringing in my ears, and I felt an obligation to help new players coming into the industry the way the Scottish industry have helped me. And the pleasing thing for me is that, and I think most people recognise that there is an amazing collegiality amongst the Australian distillers, and we're all very keen to help each other produce some of the very best malt whiskies. So we're here today, and I'd like to introduce you again to Ryan Gavin. He's the bar manager here at Rockpool Bar and Grill. Good morning, Ryan.
Morning, Bill.
So Ryan, if you could perhaps tell me, prior to visiting Tasmania, and I believe you were down there recently, what were your thoughts on the Australian whisky scene?
I've always loved Australian whisky, but the biggest problem was the supply. We've not been able to get nearly enough on mainland Australia, here in Sydney either. Every single time we get a bottle or two, it would just fly out the doors because people love it so much. And the Australian population, also the touristic influence we have coming into this venue, it just flies off the shelf. So it's hard to keep. And I knew there was so much out there. So that's why I was really lucky and really blessed to go to Tasmania and actually visit some distilleries and see how much great juice is coming up.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, look, I think part of the problem that you've experienced in not being able to get whisky is born of the fact that the industry started on a very small scale. And I don't think any of us were that sure back in those early days just how the market would respond to Australian whisky. And I think we've all been caught, we just didn't know how much to produce. And that's changing, of course, and I think you'll start to see a bit more Australian whisky.
It's a good problem to have, really.
Coming on the market, yeah. So when you were in Tasmania, you had a chance to look around. Which distilleries did you visit?
We visited 6 distilleries in 2 days. We came to see Lark and Overeen. We saw 40 Spotted Gin, as well as Old Kempton Distillery, and we came over to Nant as well to try some of their distillate. Okay,
you had a chance to jump on board and do a few tours of the distilleries. What was your impression of those?
The tours are fantastic. The people in the distillery really make the distillery, I feel. And you're talking about this community of distillers, and you can really feel the love in between the distillers and how helpful they are of each other, as well as how knowledgeable they are about their own spirit, their own productions, and the flavour profile that they're putting forward.
Were there any particular single malts that you were fond of when you were down there?
I really enjoyed the distillate coming out of Nant. We had a really beautiful moment. It was extremely cold. We were shivering in one of the rick houses, and we got to try some sherry cask directly from the barrel. And I think that was the whiskey of the entire trip for me. It was just so sweet, so rounded. It had that cask strength appeal about it as well, which helps with the cold, as you well know. But for me, that was the real standout from Nant.
One of the questions I often get asked is, Does Australian whisky have a certain character, and why is Australian whisky doing so well? Did you form any opinion on that while you were there?
It's doing well because it tastes very, very good. We've got, as you say, great water quality in Tasmania, great barley, and great conditions for making and I suppose drinking whisky as well.
So you had a good look around. Is it fair to ask you what your favourite Tassie whisky was?
Probably some of the stuff from Nant, some of that sherry cask from Nant, and some of the fresh spirit coming off the still at Lark was really impressive as well. I've had the privilege of tasting a lot of new make spirits over the years, but that new make coming from directly from the stills at Lark was pretty special.
You've seen a bit about it now, and you're obviously enthused by the Australian whisky industry. Have you ever thought about starting your own distillery?
I've always loved the romantic notion of becoming a distiller. But I mean, watching people like yourself pioneer the industry, and as you say, people always ask how hard is it? It's a challenge. It'd be a lifelong dedication, I think. And if you have any openings, I'd be more than happy to come and work for you.
Well, the way the industry's growing, I think there will be openings. And
You have my email, yeah.
We'd love to see you down there.